Trump for first-time talks to international venue about making Canada a state. U.S. President Donald Trump speaks remotely during the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, on Thursday. On Thursday, Donald Trump made his jaw-dropping proposal for the United States to acquire Canada in a foreign setting for the first time. Trump addressed the Davos Economic Gathering in Switzerland via video connection earlier this week, marking his first international appearance since taking office. His remarks and the Q&A session that followed provided a preliminary illustration of the squeezing of different alliances that was anticipated during his administration. The severity of that squeezing, the regularity of his attention to Canada, and his verbal jabs at its sovereignty were less anticipated until lately. When Trump came, his message to the global business sector was clear. Build in the U.S. or risk harsh penalties. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth, Trump added, highlighting the corporate tax advantage in the United States. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply, you will have to pay a tariff. Additionally, he went on to disparage Canada while taking jabs at a number of U.S. friends, including the European Union. Although he also issued an executive order requesting a study on North America's borders by April 1st, Trump has threatened to levy harsh tariffs on the U.S.'s North American neighbors as early as next week. Trump may be trying to exert pressure on other fronts based on that same directive. In addition to ordering his staff to report on trade imbalances and foreign levies that affect U.S. firms, it alludes to the planned review of the North American Trade Agreement. During his Davos address, he once again bemoaned the U.S. trade imbalance with Canada, which is a serious issue, but just a small portion of the $200 to $250 billion U.S. and tends to rise and fall with the price of oil that Americans import, Trump said in his address. That will no longer be the case. During a lengthy tirade on Canada, Trump said, "We can't do it." Donald Trump reiterated his 51st state insults at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, claiming that the United States does not need Canada's imports of timber, vehicles, petrol, or oil. He also urged other NATO members to increase their military budgets. "I say, you can always become a state, and if you're a state, we won't have a deficit, as you are well aware. You won't have to pay a tariff." He reiterated his previous grievances about not requiring its goods and said that dealing with Canada has been challenging. They create a lot of automobiles, but we don't need them to build our cars. We have our own woods. Therefore, we don't need their timber. Their petrol and oil are not necessary for us. The facts aren't that straightforward. On oil, for instance, although the United States is becoming more self-sufficient than it has been in decades, it is still a net importer, with Canada accounting for the majority of its imports, and its refineries are built to handle Canada's heavy crude. The economic pressure he is applying on several fronts is undeniably real. Even if the 25% tariff threat is terrible enough, it's not the only one. Businesses are preparing for the harm, and some, like Honda, have voiced concerns about their intentions to produce in Canada. Trump's other trade threats aren't the only one. Additionally, he has started a significant deregulatory drive in vital minerals, oil, and gas that might attract foreign investment to the United States. The military is also exerting pressure. Trump raised the stakes in Davos after threatening to leave NATO nations defenseless if they don't increase defense expenditure. Trump said on Thursday that he will insist NATO nations raise their military budgets to a staggering 5% of GDP. Most NATO nations aren't even near to that level, and none have attained it. Not many have even reached the midway point. The United States stands at 3.4%. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said in Ottawa that Canada has almost increased its defense expenditure and has pledged to reach the current 2% NATO threshold. But a legislative monitor says that won't happen for years. This year, Canada will have several chances to speak with Trump about these concerns at international gatherings. June will see the G7 in Alberta and the NATO summit in Europe, albeit both may take place after the federal election. Meanwhile, Trump is openly challenging Canada's sovereignty in a manner that no American leader has done in more than a century, shattering centuries' worth of standards in the U.S.-Canada relationship. But if American public opinion has anything to do with statehood, all of this discussion will stay just hypothetical. The concept of annexing Canada is wildly unpopular, according to a number of recent studies by The Wall Street Journal, Reuters Ipsos, and The Economist YouGov.